Hi everyone, and welcome to Stop Hitting Yourself. As Noelle is on the current Yelan banner, there's a good chance that anyone who rolled on it will end up with some additional constellations for her. Also, her best in slot weapon, Redhorn Stonethresher, has just been confirmed to be coming back on the next weapon banner.
Oh, how exciting!
This might have you wondering whether it's a good time to invest in her, and in this video I'll be talking about my top 5 pros and cons you should consider before you do. So, let's hit it. If you want to play Noelle at her peak potential, it would be as an on-field DPS in a Geo team. That's not to say it's the only way to play her, but if you're trying to get the most out of her, this is the best strategy. The pros and cons I'll be going through will assume that's what you're aiming for. Before we start, I also need to confess that I'm a massive Noelle simp, and she's currently the only character I've triple crowned. However, I will keep this video as impartial as possible. So, with that in mind, let's start with the cons. Just to clarify, I meant the negatives, not the constellations. But that does lead us nicely into number 5. To reach her max potential, Noelle does need her constellations. This is probably true for most characters, but the additional buff she gets from her C6 is pretty huge. Activating her elemental burst increases her attack by an additional 50% of her defense. This is the tipping point when building defense will outscale building attack in terms of damage, and, as most of Noelle's kit also scales from defense, this makes everything else more effective as well. Unlike most characters, when using her elemental skill, Noelle won't generate any energy particles. With the vast majority of her damage coming from using her burst, this means she is dependent on the rest of the party to provide her enough to use it consistently. With an energy cost of 60, you also need to build a reasonable amount of energy recharge substats. For reference, I tend to use about 150%, but you may need a bit more or less depending on your supports and how they are built. The 4-piece Husk of Opulent Dreams artifact set is by far Noelle's best in slot. The 2-piece and 4-piece set bonuses provide up to 54% defense and 24% geo damage bonus. So why is this a problem? Well, the Husk set is fairly specialised, so there aren't many characters that can use it. Also, the other artifact set available in the Slumbering Court domain is the Ocean Hued Clam set. This is even more specialised with less characters that can take advantage of it. Consequently, the value you're going to get from this artifact domain is much less than it would be for others. Again, to reach her max potential, Noelle needs 2 to 3 Geo support characters. Ideally, you would want a C6 Gorou as well as either Albedo, Yun Jin, Zhongli, or another combination of them. So this requires a lot of additional investment, particularly for C6 Gorou. Also, as he is a very specialised character, his value to your account isn't as high as some of the other more commonly used supports. The 2 team comps I use the most are Fischl, Albedo, Noelle and Gorou, which is better for team damage, or Zhongli, Yun Jin, Noelle and Gorou, which is better for Noelle's personal damage. Now, don't get me wrong, the amount of damage Noelle can dish out is impressive for a 4-star character. The problem is, you'll probably always have a better option available, maybe more than one. Let's say you did go to the trouble of getting C6 Gorou, it's likely that you'll also have gotten at least a C0 Ito. He uses all the same weapons and artifacts, but has a much higher damage ceiling. Now, let's talk about the pros. Noelle has 3 great weapons available, each falling within a different bracket. If you're free to play, the craftable Claymore White Blind is a great option. If you don't mind spending a bit, you can pick up the Serpent Spine from the Battle Pass, and at high refinements, this is comparable to some 5-star weapons. Lastly, if you have the Primo Gem saved, or you can afford to swipe for it, Redhorn Stonethresher is her best in slot weapon, but it does mean trying your luck on the weapon banner. Each weapon slash during her elemental burst has a wide arc, meaning she can hit multiple targets. This is particularly effective against groups of enemies and where she really shines the most. Depending on how far the enemies are spaced apart, this is the one situation she can potentially out-damage Ito, as his burst's AoE is smaller. Once Noelle's elemental burst is active, you can swap her on and off field and the effect it gives will persist. This is great if you have a support like Gorou whose buff has just ended, as you can switch to him, reapply it and then switch back to carry on dealing damage. One of the things that makes Noelle so unique is that she can shield, heal and deal DPS all in one. Whilst her damage may be lower than other main DPS characters, the amount of utility she has should not be overlooked. This allows you to focus on supports that either buff her or deal good off-field damage. When you build Noelle with high defense, it has multiple other benefits outside of increasing her burst damage. It increases the damage her shield can absorb, reduces the damage she takes, and increases how much she can heal herself and the rest of the party.
I can patch myself up.
Even against the toughest enemies, it's really hard for them to do enough damage to be a threat, and this includes corrosion effects that go through shields. So, these are my top 5 pros and cons to consider. In my opinion, if what you're really interested in is damage output, then Noelle is probably not for you. There are other characters that will require much less investment to do more DPS. If you're interested in survivability, you could build a Noelle team for this. Realistically though, having a strong healer like Kokomi or a shielder like Zhongli in your party would provide more benefit. Ultimately, you should only really invest into her if you enjoy her playstyle and like her as a character. Personally, I think she's very fun and simple to play, so I don't regret investing into her at all. Every so often there is an event or Spiral Abyss floor where she's really effective, and I always have an absolute blast cutting through waves of enemies. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed the content, please consider leaving a like and a comment. You can also subscribe to the channel to get notified about future videos. You've been watching Stop Hitting Yourself. Until next time.